of whatchamadinkle. Ow! Yes, indeed. Welcome to episode number 30 of The Tasty Twist with Sammy B. I am your host, Sammy Blanchette, producer of the show, local musician here in Ludlow, Vermont. Shout out once again to everybody here at Okemo Valley TV. I don't know why I was using this on my guitar in the introduction, but have you ever been frustrated, whether you're a full-time musician like me or just a hobby guy, and you try to be Billy the Hero and do it all yourself with wrong tools, right tools, whatever it may be? Well, every once in a while, you just need to know a guy. And I got the guy here today. That is local Chester, Vermont, guitar luthier, wizard, formerly had his business out of Manhattan, correct?
It was
down
Long Island. Yes.
Long Island, yes. Honest. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott MacDonald. So,
Hello.
Why do I have this here? What was the reason?
Probably because you couldn't fit your chainsaw in your pocket,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
which might have actually worked better on your guitar
Yeah.
from what I was watching.
You brought tools today also as well too, right? You brought toys to show the world?
Well, I didn't bring any tools, no.
No. You
I
brought
just-
wisdom.
Well, that would be a first. And I would have to watch the episode for verification.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's you've got a very long, amazing career with everything that you've been doing. I would imagine you also played for an extended period of time as well too, right? Before getting in the
I
being a
played
luthier?
for many, many, many years until there was a federal mandate that you had to know more than 4 chords, and then I had to stop.
You mean more than the country chords that everyone?
I don't know. That was all I really could think of. But I'm a limited player. I play in a few keys, and I've backed people up and done some session work. But I put most of my energy into learning how to build and repair and
bring things back to life.
So in those small, couple of keys that I play pretty adeptly in, it comes across like I know what I'm doing.
Capo or no capo?
Well, a capo can be a very good friend. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just like skiing the bumps on a ski mountain. Moguls are your friends. Fire can be your friend sometime too. Not always.
Well, I saw that fire. I'm glad
I know. Thank
hurt.
God, no injuries or.
So
or
what were you
casualties.
trying to do there with your guitar with that screwdriver?
You know, that is a very good question. It might have been actually getting rust off of the fretboard, which is incorrect, I would imagine, right?
Well, I would use a red screwdriver for that. I think, yeah.
Flat or Phillips? I had Phillips.
Definitely a spade.
Spade.
Not a
yeah,
Phillips,
yeah. So flat for the audience
right.
that
So you can
doesn't know.
scrape the rust off.
Yeah. So you mentioned back in Long Island, you also ran a radio station. Is that correct?
No. I had a live radio show for about 5 years where different artists would come on and perform for an hour.
That's awesome.
Once a week.
That's awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
Did you also have pre-recorded music that you did to fill up like a
Nope,
time
it was
slot?
a solid live hour. Yeah.
Nice.
And every so often they would bring a CD to play something, but usually it was live, live, no 2-second delay, nothing. It was just great.
Was it everybody from solo and duo artists to like full bands?
Yeah, we had a couple of full bands in there.
Was this right out of the city or in Long
It was
Island?
at Stony Brook. Yeah.
Stony Brook.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
It
And
was
when did you move to Vermont to pursue
Well, I'm
your
starting my
career?
9th year.
9th year.
It's gone very quickly, and I love it here.
Yeah.
And my guitar business is busier than I was in New York, which surprised me.
That's fantastic.
And the customers here are the best. They're just grateful and gracious, and I love it. I love taking care of people's instruments and building guitars for people here.
We appreciate you
Yeah.
for that. Yeah. And tell folks where is that secret information or they can find
it's,
online? Yeah.
I'm in what used to be known as East Gassets, which is just down the road a bit from here in Ludlow, on the way into Chester Village. It's the post office calls it Chester, but people still, there's a little sign that says Gassets.
Yeah.
As you're heading south, and I'm just about a mile off.
Yeah.
Aside from
Where's
that.
sorry, I'm getting the towns mixed up. Rawsonville is down. That's Route 30, right? That's down there like Stratton and Jamaica. Isn't there like another town that's on one of those like small green signs on?
Oh, there's probably hundreds of them.
Yeah, no, but like besides Gassets, isn't there like another little
I don't
suburb
know.
town?
Yeah, maybe.
It's not Jacksonville or Baltimore. That's further
Yeah,
south. I know.
no,
I know that.
I wouldn't know.
What's most
I've
important
probably
for
passed that sign a bunch of times, though, whatever one it is.
I think what's most important for people to know is you're right near Queen of the South. Shout out to Ronica and Tom. I had Ronica on an episode
Great
recently.
stuff. Oh, my God.
Yeah,
Really great.
yeah.
I love their food.
Did a show with them recently. Shout out to Down to the Roots in Chester, where they were the food truck there. And
Right.
man, they are hustlers. It's great in our local community how many hustling business owners and musicians that we have in this area.
There's a lot of talent hiding in the hills for sure.
Hiding in the hills. The hills have ears. So a typical week for you. You open your shop usually around 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, right, to begin work?
I'm in there sometimes 6:37 working away before the phones start ringing. And I do things by appointment only. It's not a retail. It's on my property in a separate building. So I ask people to call me in the morning the day they want to come. No advance appointments, which is just, people travel and people forget. And this way we connect in the morning, sure what time is good for you. And they come by. And sometimes it's to repair something. Sometimes it's to talk about a new custom instrument to be built. And, I'm also a homesteader. I do sugaring and I have chickens. We have a little mini farm on the property.
And you have dogs that are your working agents, right, on the property?
Working agents?
Working agents, yeah. They answer the phones for you, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, no, actually, the raccoons and the red squirrels do all the work for me. And I had the black bears are my security guards.
Cubs, too?
Yeah.
Well,
So
where there's mama, there's usually 3 or 4 cubs.
we have a big chunk of wilderness around us, and we have a lot of animals. In fact, I had a gray fox literally walk across the path in front of my workshop this morning while I was working. And I've had bears on my porch, surprised a few in the dark at night.
They like coffee or no?
I think that's why they came up.
Yep.
They could smell me roasting I have a little coffee roasting room in my workshop.
Well,
so-
I mean,
excuse me.
They have said that coffee is good for you.
I wouldn't argue with them.
Yeah.
They're bigger than me.
Yeah, again, whoever they is, I'm not arguing with
Oh,
that.
I thought you meant the bears.
Yeah, well, the internet, like Wikipedia or the people that
I think pretty much anything you enjoy in moderation is good for you.
absolutely. Would you say majority of your work is like changing strings, like building a guitar from start to scratch, basic repairs? Like, what would you say a majority of your work consists of?
Well,
with your
I
clients?
intentionally set up my business model so that I don't really just change strings unless it's for somebody who needs a hand or hasn't learned how to do it yet. And then I say, come on by and I'll show you. I don't even charge them anything. I just show them how to do it. Maybe they pay for the strings or whatever. But typically it could be anything from a setup or your neck angle being off and having to steam the neck out and or reset the neck angle, reglue bridges, cracks, loose braces, fretwork, any kind of repair and maintenance. But a good setup, you'd be surprised how many professional artists you would even know or listen to when you were younger, growing up, have brought me guitars that were never set up really properly. So that they're just intuitive and the intonation up and down is perfect and that the strings above the first fret are all incrementally just slightly higher but super low across the nuts so that you're not pushing too hard. And there's a lot of finesse to it. And it took me 25 years. I've been doing it for 33 now. It took me about 25 years to even start noticing some of those tiny little nuances of like, hey, maybe that B string's 10 1,000ths higher than it's supposed to be in the nut.
And it depends on a lot of different factors between weather, humidity, how much the artist is playing the instrument also too, right? There's so many accidents sometimes where the guitar drops and then,
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's always different every day and people are different. And it's just really nice to have diverse customers coming in, and every day it's a different story.
And you probably have 1% or less than 1% of the people that just make you,
Well, yeah.
That was to get the dandruff off the side of my head, by the way. Dry skin.
I was holding my tongue about that.
Yeah.
But I've gotten pretty good with the radar when the phone rings, if people really annoy me on the phone, I find polite ways to basically tell them that I'm not accepting new work. And, you know,
Yeah.
I've only had 2 or 3 people who were so over the top rude that I had to ask them to leave in the 9 years.
So much has changed over your career and our existence as human beings as far as technology and reviews and ways of doing business. How would you say, besides word of mouth, I'm sure being maybe still the most powerful and most important after all these years as a business owner, but Facebook, Instagram, people connecting that way to write a good review or connect with you for doing business?
You know, when I first came here, I was worried that people wouldn't know that I was even here. I was living on the North Shore of Long Island, and my numbers are going to be off by a small amount, but not much. The population on Long Island is about 10 million, 11 million, and it's something like 12 times smaller than the state of Vermont.
Yeah.
All right? That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
I was coming up here in the middle of the woods, not close to any real highway exits or anything. So I was like, I wonder if this is going to work or not.
Did you have family up here originally? No. I forget if
No.
we...
No. I used to come up here to climb mountains with my dad, New Hampshire and Vermont and stuff when I was younger.
Did you guys ski too, or no?
I used to ski, but not really much anymore. But yeah, we just came up here and gave up everything we knew and followed our hearts and threw our hats to the wind and hoped that things would work out. And they
Was your
did.
property the first place you stumbled upon?
Oh no, we
to
looked for a
settle down
couple of
roots?
years.
Yeah.
We found an old hunting camp that wasn't even on the market that needed to be turned into a home.
Wow.
And built my shop there, and yeah, so.
Yeah.
But it's been a fast 8 years. I'm starting my 9th pretty much next month, actually.
And I thought you were already up here for 30 years already, but that's just in business. That's
I've been in business for 33. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you start this business of yours as a guitar luthier when you were running a radio station or a radio show?
No, I left the film business when I was 30 years old. I was a producer director in the animation business in
Where'd you
New
go to
York.
school?
I went to the University of Bridgeport when it used to be a really great film school.
Oh, wow.
Back in the 70s.
Connecticut. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got out of that and I moved to New York City and I got a couple of jobs very quickly in various animation studios. It helped a bit that 2 of my student films were Academy Award nominated. Two times I lost.
Right?
I lost to John Lasseter.
Oh, wow.
Who was the Toy Story guy?
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he was out in California. I was on the East Coast. I didn't know him. And I didn't even know who John Lasseter was. And I went on the Academy's website about 10 years ago and I looked it up and I was like, holy crap! I lost to John Lasseter twice.
Wow.
I didn't feel as bad after that. But I basically, I went to film school to do good things with animation. And I worked on the last couple of Schoolhouse Rocks. You probably knew those.
Yeah.
But it was mostly commercials, and I didn't want to dedicate my career to selling people crap they didn't need that told them, unless you buy this toothpaste or these blue jeans, or this shampoo, that you're never going to meet the woman that you love and that your ass is too big.
The 5 cents that work for hooking
It was
up.
basically just, I didn't want to use my passion to influence people to buy things they didn't need and to manipulate people. So I walked off the set.
You wanted more meaning behind it.
Yeah,
In
I
other
walked
words,
off the set and told them all, basically
to what.
Yeah, exactly right. And I burned that bridge so thoroughly there was no going back.
But that's okay. Yeah. I think it's refreshing when people don't necessarily speak the corporate lingo. And that's the beauty, I think, about Vermont, is that there's so many people that speak their minds with no filter, but they mean it because they care and they're looking out for products and they're looking out for their neighbors, most importantly.
Well, I think you have a lot of reinvention too. A lot of people come up here to follow a different path. And I think one of the things that I worry about is that people coming up here are bringing where they live with them instead of being part of Vermont.
Sure.
Let's bring your Buddha up for a minute.
Yeah.
May I?
Yeah, go for it.
You were talking about your Buddha. There's 2 Vermonts. And there's 2 Buddhas. This is the one that Joel.
I was
This is the
wondering
one
what-
that George Harrison likes. This
Yeah, I was wondering.
So you've got Vermont and you've got Ludlow. Okay, right
Yeah.
there. There's two Vermonts, and people come up here and often try to turn this place into where they came from.
Right.
And they do so at the expense of the community. Like this town doesn't even have a high school anymore because it's
crazy.
I believe 87% second homeowners now.
Yeah.
And they're all nice people. It's not a problem. But
Yeah.
Vermont's culture
Yeah.
is really being threatened in a lot of ways. So I just thought I wanted to mention that please, follow your heart, come up to Vermont, be part of things though. Don't look down your nose at the locals and tell them they're wrong about everything and try and change their zoning and, all of that.
Yeah.
Let Vermont be
Yeah.
Vermont and find your way here without trying to turn it into where you left.
And being from Connecticut myself originally, as you know, I've always tried to stay with the humble mental approach of just stay in your lane and like be kind to people and be supportive of the community. And but yeah, and I don't know. I almost feel Vermont, especially given the amazing culture and history it stands upon after all these years. But I feel there could be that potential bitterness almost anywhere that you go. Like, hey, you're not from here, so you're not in this and that.
It can happen, but the reason I think that happens here so much is that the lifestyle a lot of the locals have had for generations is being changed around them, and they feel helpless about it.
Yeah.
That's all. And I just think people who come up here could be sensitive to that. And before you do anything, just live here for a few years, get a feel for things. I joined the American Legion, and I got to know a lot of the locals, and I've learned a lot about being here from the local people, and I love them. And I see a lot of things being threatened that could affect the way of life. And we don't need to get into politics right now, and I won't do that. But I just wanted to say, come up here and be part of things. Be part of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Learn to come up here and let go of the stuff that you bring with you. You're leaving where you are for a reason to go somewhere new. That's an opportunity to reinvent yourself.
And change
completely.
change is hard. I mean, you know this like better than most. I mean, change is hard for a lot of people. And I mean, I had to learn that 6 years ago when I moved up here. I left my family sporting goods business and being in an area in southern Connecticut, southwest Connecticut, Fairfield County, no less, of everything being open 7 days a week in and around you with millions of people and just making that cultural shift. And granted, I've been coming up here for years skiing and a weekend warrior, but that's way different compared to, okay, now you need to go to the DMV up here and switch everything over. Now you have to adjust to the seasonality of jobs in addition to trying to find your footing as being a full-time musician.
You have to learn there's 2 extra seasons.
There's 2 extra, right.
Mud and sticks.
Mud and sticks, yeah. Don't be a stick in the mud. Is Godzilla a stick in the mud? I'm curious, the shirt you had mentioned. Yeah.
Well, I wore this because you're a guitar monster.
Now you got to get the one with the 3-headed dragon, Ghidorah.
Yeah, I don't want to start. I've got 2 or 3 Godzilla T-shirts already.
Yeah.
So.
Were you into those movies growing up?
Not really.
No.
Not really. I remember when I was.
You didn't like the idea of a man in a 180-pound suit, just sweating to pieces, just waving his arms around in like a atomic ray.
Well, we can watch that on MSNBC right now with the candidates, can't we?
Yes. What was I gonna say? There's a lot. Oh, I wanted to get back actually. Random.
I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, random part. So you mentioned the guy in Toy Story. They got a 5th one coming out next year.
I wouldn't know. I don't follow
In
that stuff
2026.
anymore. Yeah.
I guess as long as Hanks and Alan are alive,
I
right?
just don't know.
To do Buzz and Woody.
I have a problem with that whole Toy Story thing. It's subliminal damaging to children. I don't know if you knew that. Sex and drugs. Didn't you never got the sex and drugs connection from Toy Story?
Nah.
What are the two lead characters' names? I'm having fun with
Buzz and Woody. Yeah.
Told you I was going to bring
goodness,
chaos.
I know. Yeah, I'm just waiting for Ozzy to pop up behind this. So you should mention.
Well, I've got somebody who wants to pop up.
Whoa!
It's Paul McCartney.
Oh my gosh! Wait.
Todd McFarlane, who designed Spawn, made these great Yellow
That's
Submarine
great.
figurines. And Paul, I have 2 Pauls. You'll see those. He has
Hold on,
2
let me
of
see.
me.
Let me see. Let me
Did
see.
you know I was in the Beatles? He says
Yeah.
that a lot. I was a Beatle. Paul, we all know that. I brought this
Yeah.
for you. I had 2.
Yeah,
I
is he the one that sang "When I'm 64"?
I believe so, yes.
Paul,
but,
you don't
but
look
I
so-
brought that for you. You now have a new Buddha.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, he's good, dude. Thank you very much. Yeah, yeah. You know I'm 64, right? You don't look at Paul. This looks like you from way back in the day. What are we, Jeff Dunham, the ventriloquist here?
Those are pretty collectible, cool things.
Have you seen him live since he's
Yes.
gotten much older?
No, I saw Paul probably in, I'm guessing, the mid-'90s.
Okay.
And Linda was playing with him.
Oh, wow.
Might have been early. Yeah, it was. Might have been early '90s, late '80s, even.
Yeah.
Danny,
What's the name of his
Danny and
band?
Linda.
What? It's Paul McCartney, Ramon, or Wings?
Well, it was Wings, right?
Wings,
after the
Wings, that's
Beatles.
what I thought, yeah,
Some
yeah,
of his
yeah.
greatest songwriting was those first few albums after the Beatles.
Yeah.
Really amazing, lush, interesting, creative songwriting and arrangements and such.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't know how diverse his writing was. So, you know, those albums have a lot of treasures in them.
All of them are so unique, especially that
Yeah.
the Beatles went through a couple of different phases between the clean cut looking days like this, like the Chuck Berry days, the early 60s, and then they stopped touring in what, 65 or
I don't
66?
remember. I'm not a Beatles historian. I know a lot about Yellow Submarine because I knew the producer and the illustrator who designed these, and Apple gave me permission. I contacted Apple Records when I made this Yellow Submarine guitar that was going to be going in a big guitar making book, and I had to go through the corporate thing with the Beatles and everything, you know, Apple, and so
Which is now,
I got to know those people, and they gave me permission to make this guitar. And so I got this whole collection of all the Yellow Submarine characters, and I wound up with 2 Pauls. So
that's great.
you know, I think 1 Paul is enough.
Paul thanks you as he puts his hands up like this. That's his hand. How long of a process was that going through the corporate process?
I was 4 or 5 phone calls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, but I mean like months, weeks?
No, it took about a week. Don't forget, I was a producer in film, so I knew how to.
Sure.
Yeah,
You knew how to work
I knew
the-
how to get on
yeah.
the phone. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it now, correct me if I'm wrong, is it the Jackson family that you have to go through now for
I wouldn't
anything?
know.
Because
No,
I could have sworn
Yeah.
his estate bought the Beatles catalog years
I
ago.
know I know that Michael bought Paul's songs, and Paul thought Michael was kidding when he said, "I'm going to buy your songs." Paul thought he was kidding, and he wasn't. And
Yeah.
Paul was real, you know. But that's all I know. I think he got his library back, or the Jackson estate sold them.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but
It's
I
great.
live in the woods in Vermont now, so I don't know anything south of my driveway.
But you have access to a computer, right? Southie?
A what? I don't have a computer in my
Yeah.
house.
So there's
No.
I found out years ago as a kid going through Lower Manhattan, there's pigeons in Battery Park. So you can find out about the pigeons right near the World Trade Center complex.
It's
You know
funny
what
you
I
brought
mean?
that up
Yeah.
because I was wondering about that this morning, and you know, so now I know what to look for.
When I started my first job in 2018 up here at Vermont Flannel Company, and while starting my roots as a musician, that was my traffic was cows on 100A before getting to 4. Like the first weekend I started working up here, just cows going from like one side of the road to the next. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah, they're they do that. They just have no respect for the pedestrian, right away.
No, and they'll like poop on the roads also as
Yeah.
well too, which is fine. I mean, they got to do what they got to do. It's fertilizer for the earth, right?
We're kind of getting off on some interesting tangents.
That's
here.
the part of the tasty twist, though. Yeah. When was the last time you were down in Manhattan or Long Island?
Oh God,
Visiting.
2 or 3 years ago, I had to go back. And
Did it scare you
I used
at
the word.
first?
No, it's not scary. It's just noisy and bright and crowded and.
Middle fingers from people from driving patterns.
No, people are nice everywhere if you're nice to them for the most part. I just prefer not being surrounded by throngs of
By
people.
8.5 million people in the
That's
5
right.
boroughs. Yeah.
It's the light and the noise. I've been living literally. You've been up to my place. It's in the
Yeah.
middle of the woods. It's
Yeah.
black and it's quiet.
I've still yet to see these bears for coffee that you were referring to. But
Yeah,
am I curious to see them one of these days? Are they in a good mood most of the time?
Yeah, I've got one that charged me a couple of times. I had to shoot it in the butt with. It did. It was trying to get into my chicken.
Is it an overnight parking ticket?
Black bear about that big. He was trying to get into my chicken coop 2 or 3 days in a row, and I went out one day and he charged at me, and it was a bluff charge. He wasn't going to hurt me or anything. And I got in touch with the game warden, and I wound up going out in muck boots in my bathrobe at 2 in the morning when he came back, and I shot him in the butt with some rubber buckshot 20 feet away, and he ran off. Didn't hurt him. Never
Yeah.
came back.
Yeah.
And that was a seminal moment for me. I said to myself, God, if you had told me 7 or 8 years ago that I'd be out in my yard, at my chicken coop, in muck boots and a bathrobe, shooting a bear in the ass with a rubber buckshot, I would have told you were out of your freaking mind.
And you're busier than you were when you were down in Long Island.
Yeah, and so I've got it all. Yeah,
That's it.
I had the benefit.
You're like Costanza. I'm disturbed. I'm depressed. I'm inadequate.
I love the life here. It's certainly interesting.
And you fit in quite well. And I always bring this up to musicians and the other type of guests that I've had on the podcast so far, just how supportive the arts and entertainment industries are here in Vermont, and just how supportive Vermont is for the arts in general.
I think that a lot of places are very supportive. There's not a lot of population here. There's only 600,000 people.
I think
or
it's
so.
still like 630. Yeah.
Yeah. So when
bit
you
more
have
than
arts
Wyoming.
organizations, it's much easier. Like I've already had a grant or two for doing new projects with my guitar work. And so they're very receptive, and it's easy to get in touch with them and to be helped through the process. So I think it's because you have a couple of arts organizations and a very small population, so it's much easier to utilize those things.
Yeah. How many guitar luthiers are in the area besides yourself?
Probably about half a dozen of us.
Half a dozen. Yeah.
Luthier, for folks who don't know, it's a French word. Luthier.
Luthier.
It means a lute builder in French. Je ne parle pas français.
Oui.
But luthier. So you say you're a luthier, people look at you funny sometimes, but that's what it means. It means
That could be a first name to somebody,
Lex Luthier.
Yeah.
He used to fix Superman's ukuleles. Lex Luthier.
I like the people with two first names: Jason, Kyle, Michael, Scott. I like those.
Yeah, I'm going to be Scotty M from now on. Thank you for that, by the way.
We get the people with two last names: Blanchett, MacDonald. You mentioned that you've worked on some really famous people's instruments in the past. Who would you say is maybe the biggest one name-wise that you've
Well,
worked
this
on?
guy's Sammy B. Brought me a guitar once or twice. Yeah, I don't
We're
really.
getting there.
We all get asked that question, and please don't be insulted or whatever. I'm not being dodgy, but it's better not to talk about that. It comes off kind of disingenuous if
I
you
hear
talk
you.
about it.
Yeah.
But there was Marvin Pippelwaffle. You probably know him. Yeah.
There was a guy in Connecticut that mentioned that he worked on one of Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitars years ago, way back in the day.
Yeah, I've had a handful of really wonderful, famous people bring me things, and it always felt nice that they found me, and it was sort of like, oh, okay, maybe I did do the right thing, and maybe I'm on the right path, kind of thing. And when I was younger, I would be like, hey, I worked on this guy's guitar. I just don't want to do that now. It's just, I've talked enough for several lifetimes, and I'm trying to lay lower here.
What's an average amount of work per week for you?
Oh God, I wouldn't even know how to answer that. I'm in there every day for anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, and sometimes at night for another hour or two, and on the weekend. So I probably put in a 35 to 50 hour week, depending on what's going on. And
Right.
It's on my property, and so I can kind of go in there when I'm in the mode, work for a few hours, and go off and do something else on the property. When you're taking a vintage Martin apart, warming up the neck joint, pulling the neck out, doing that kind of work on something that could be a $40,000 guitar, 2 hours of that feels like 8 hours. So you have you go in, you get in your head, turn off the phone, you do the work, you go and you do something and you sort of decompress. You can't just steam ahead 8 hours of doing that all at once.
Right.
I'll do, today I'm going to set up 4 guitars, or I'll do 2 or 3 level and recrowns, or I'll take out 2 necks on vintage Martins, or I'm going to dedicate today and tomorrow to just building guitars. So there's no real way I can quantify how I work. It changes
Is it
every
based
day.
is it based on priority, like who comes first, or
Only if there's
doing different projects to break up the action from being burned out?
I try to, the only time there's something coming first, as if it's an emergency. If somebody has, or they're moving, or they have a recording session coming up, or something like that.
And they only have one like functioning instrument. Like
Exactly,
right.
If somebody who's got 45 guitars comes to me and says, I really like this guitar, can you put it in front of everybody? I'll pay you extra. I say no,
Right.
as politely as I can.
Right.
And so.
Yeah, and you mentioned that for your clientele is so wonderful, and I'm grateful to be a part of that circle also as well too. But do you find that there are some weeks that you have a really hard time getting back to people in regards to, yes, I can do it in this time frame, or can't do it?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I know that sometimes I fall behind because there might be something on one of my benches that has some surprises in it. Like somebody might have taken a neck out of a Martin once before and put epoxy in the neck joint, and it totally screws up my workflow. Or I had hand surgery back in April, and that
was
threw
it
me
carpal
off.
tunnel that you?
No, it was just there's this thing going around. I don't know if you heard about it. It's affecting millions.
Getting old?
Yes, it's called aging. You're quick.
I'm warming up. It takes me 25 minutes to figure
25 years of full contact martial arts and motorcycles and all kinds of things. And my hand just had a finger that wasn't working, and I had to get the tendon worked on. So
How hard was the surgery or the procedure?
it was not that big a deal.
Did you have to do physical therapy for that too?
No.
In general, like before you get into the meat and potatoes of like your projects, do you warm up your hands? Are there any sort of like warm up routines that you do besides meditation and trying to avoid Facebook?
Just that nice warm cup of coffee in my hand in the
works,
morning.
yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, no decaf, no half and half, straight to the rocket fuel.
Well, I do my own roasting, and I do French and Vienna roasts. And so with the darker you roast coffee, the less caffeine it has.
You ever thought about opening up a coffee shop?
Nope. That would mean I'd
much
have
work.
to deal with people.
More so than you already have.
There's a difference between retail
Yeah.
and what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to have anything to do with retail. I prefer just crazy musicians like you coming in one at a time. So
I try to lay down the foundation of being organized, because I remember years ago when our good friend Neil Barron like really first introduced.
Great guy.
Yeah, great guy. Yeah, saw him the other day in town. Shout out Neil, working at Mountaintop Inn in Chittenden. Shout out Mountaintop Inn Chittenden. All the shout outs. He mentioned to me, he said, this guy is a god. He brings things back to life like you wouldn't even imagine. But you gotta call him right at 9 o'clock. And so I try to remember to be prompt with that and remember to.
I know I have some
when I
rules.
need you for a favor.
I don't want to sound like no soup for you.
Come back one year.
No, I ask people to call me between 8:30 and 9 on the same day they want to come, because I have to set up my day. And if I don't know when people are coming, I can't be on my bench in the middle of a complicated job.
Yep.
So by 9:30, I know who's coming and when, and I can block out my day so that I can be doing the surgery for this. I got 2 hours before this next guy comes. I can reglue this bridge on this Taylor.
Yeah.
And I can, set up that other guitar, and then I can be done. And this way, nobody's coming while I'm got glue on my hands or doing sensitive work with a chisel or something. So it's just really all about, in order to do my job my way through my filters, I have to set up my business in a way where it makes sense. And that's the best way I found that it works for me.
Do you think proper communication with humans has gotten harder over the years?
No.
As far as
I've gotten much better at it.
yeah.
I've gotten much better at properly communicating.
I mean, like the other people, not.
Well, yeah, if you get somebody who's a little loopy and a little crazy and well-meaning on the phone, and there's a way, to slow them down and to get them to look at you and to listen to you, and so I haven't met more than one or two people, like I said, that were just not possible to work with. I had one guy who was really, really, really annoying, and he was pushing my buttons. And when I was younger, I had sharper teeth, and I would bite back.
You mentioned about riding a dinosaur in the pregame.
Well,
so
this guy was starting to really tick me off, and he was just like parent, like, oh, this guy said, and can I stay here?
The
And-
comparisons.
Yeah,
right?
and then
Geez.
I don't want to leave it. I want to watch. Can I watch you do the job? I have to make sure you're not going to make any mistakes, and blah 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 blah. And he
So
was
right
just,
off the bat, he's not trusting you.
Oh my
but
God.
But he comes to you. For,
But what I did was I stepped to the side so that I didn't want to be a jerk, and I didn't want to be full of ego or anything, and I just said, I'm going to hazard a guess that you've burned through a whole lot of guitar repair guys, and nobody's willing to work with you anymore. I said, do you really want to add me to that list, or do you want to just sit down and let me do my job? And he said, I'm sorry, and he sat down.
That's amazing. Wow.
Because there was a glimmer of light in this guy that I liked.
Yeah.
And he was crazy. And if you're going to make a living with musicians, you can't say, I won't work with crazy people. Mm-hmm. You have to be open to them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, there's a level of insanity.
Also it would be hypocritical because I'm kind of crazy too. So,
Yeah. Great minds think alike. Yeah. Do you like baseball at all?
I used to love baseball.
Used to love baseball.
You're looking at the only guy who got Joe DiMaggio's autograph who didn't know who Joe DiMaggio was.
Is this part of the Seinfeld episode where they're in the cafe dinking
I
the
was
donuts?
I was 10 years old, and we pulled into a gas station, my mom and dad and me and my little brother, and my mom and dad are like, holy crap, that's Joe DiMaggio in the garage. Oh my God, it is. It's Joe DiMaggio. And I'm like, okay, big deal, whatever. And so they hand me a note and a pen, notepad, and Scott, go in there and get Joe DiMaggio. I don't want to do that. I was very shy. You go get his autograph.
How old were you?
I was about 10 or 11.
10, yeah.
So I get out and I go into the garage, and there's this little guy standing next to a tall guy, and I asked the mechanic for his autograph. And the mechanic goes, I think you mean him, kid. And I look up, and Joe DiMaggio is looking down, and he is cracking up. Cracking up. I made him so happy that he kind of knocked me on the shoulder, and he wrote "Best wishes, Joe DiMaggio." He actually added a "Best wishes," which he never did.
Wow.
And I went home.
Normally it's just the fast cursive
Right,
signature,
that's right.
right?
So
Yeah. It's like I got to move along.
That's right.
Yeah.
I glued it onto one of those little file cards, and then I cut around it with scissors, and I still have it.
Yeah.
all
that's
these years
fantastic.
later.
Oh my God. Imagine what you never.
55 years I've hung on to that darn
Oh yeah, I'm about to
autograph.
say like you'll never sell that, but imagine what that's worth nowadays if you wanted to.
Yeah, I've never asked, but yeah. But there's a certain beauty in a guy like that who he was very wounded when Marilyn died, and he never got over her, and they never stopped being friends after the divorce. And his last words were, finally, I'll see Marilyn again. All right? So this was a man who was filled with unhappiness, and he also he didn't enjoy the limelight. So this dumb kid asking the mechanic for the autograph, he must have loved the crap out of that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
And that's when I learned my role in the universe was to just unintentionally be clueless and goofy and sincere and try to make people happy when I can. And that's sort of,
I try to strive with that also too, man. And it's interesting, Scott. You bring up something about the limelight, yeah, because there's a lot of like big stars out there in the world, local or higher up, that end up living this amazing lifestyle that all the corporate people with 9-to-5s would dream to have a job like this until they actually know what's involved to get said lifestyle. And unfortunately, a lot of the times, these big star artists are never achieving true happiness. You would think, all the money in the world, but it just goes to show you, money and fame doesn't necessarily lead to like happiness. You see a lot of these like videos where they live like unfulfilled, like lonely lives.
Well, up here,
the point I'm making is that moments like that with Joe DiMaggio, all it takes is one little moment from a random person to perk a rock star back up sometimes. And it's you know.
And I've done that for a couple of pretty famous people when I was hanging out with them, where I said something genuine and human to them that moved them. And it wasn't the typical fan kind of thing. It was just like, in fact.
It's almost like you were treating them like a normal person as opposed to...
they are a normal person.
Yeah.
I've never asked anybody for an autograph, ever, no matter who they were.
Yeah.
That would just be insulting for me to do that to them, But, hey, I got this here.
You got a toy. Yeah.
I wanted to see. Do you know how to play ukulele?
Actually, Scott, what was funny, I have a ukulele at home. I do not know how to play it.
This is
fully.
one I brought back.
You built that, right? Yeah.
piece of the wood from it.
Oh, no kidding.
This came
Wow.
back
What
in
kind
my...
is this mahogany?
That's koa.
Koa. Okay.
And I brought that back in my suitcase. It was a lot bigger, but big enough for my
Can I
bag.
smell it real quick?
Sure.
Does
That
smell
came
like
back
wood.
from the islands with me, and then I made this ukulele with has a little tone port and rope binding.
So it's is it semi-hollow or is it
it's a
full?
total hollow body
Total
instrument.
hollow. That's awesome.
And
how long did that take to build?
I don't even remember. Probably like 4 or 5 months or something.
That's awesome. Yeah. Take me really quickly, just building a custom guitar. Do you order the wood specifically yourself, or do people request like a certain wood to be built for a guitar? Like when you do a custom guitar from scratch.
We'll talk about it, and
Yeah.
I'll talk to people about who they are as an artist.
It was like Frank Zappa.
Hand Sammy an instrument and
Turn it.
everybody put on your seatbelts.
Don't you boys know any nice songs to play? You had a couple other things in mind that you wanted to bring up. I think it was, what were we talking about? Was it school related or was it? Oh, I got one for you. Before radio, when you were doing film school, did you ever balance like like restaurant industry jobs? Like, did you work did you actually like work? You must have like retail or like other different.
When I was a kid, I did everything from picking pumpkins to working in pancake houses to having paper routes. I started
Pancake house must have been dangerous.
Oh yeah, it's you may not know this, but working in a pancake house is responsible for more work-related deaths than commercial fishing. It's true, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I started working when I was 11, and I've never not had a job.
Yeah,
so
it's 50 plus years. Yeah, yeah.
Plus.
Plus.
Yeah, I just turned 65.
you
I caught up with my IQ. It was a very big year for me.
Did you ever see Bill Burr's skit on speaking of like bad eating habits?
No, I don't know who that is.
Is that Bill Burr, comedian Bill Burr? Oh my God, he's a famous Boston comedian. Selling out Fenway Park. He's like
Boston?
Yeah.
Where's that?
Yeah,
I
Boston.
don't know Boston.
The old Tea Party. No, we drink coffee. We don't like tea.
You mean that old band, Boston?
Yeah, that's right. Brad Delp on vocals. Love Brad. Tom Schultz. He invented he pioneered like a certain type of like I don't know, engineering like with pedals and stuff, right?
And they did all that stuff in their house too.
Yeah.
And then the tapes got all stuck together and ruined. The master tapes, they did. He lost all his masters from that first album, and it was heartbreaking. But
Funny story about Boston. The first 2 albums that came out in '76 and '78. The '78 one, Don't Look Back. My grandfather and I used to blast that in his old Chevy Tahoe on the way up for ski trips when I was in high school.
that was you?
That was. I can't play more than a feeling on the ukulele, Scott. Just. But anyways, no. So Bill Burr said one time about a lady suing McDonald's for having a heart attack, and it was one of those Super Size Me film moments where she was literally eating McDonald's every day, 7 days a week, like for the meals. Bill Burr just said, "Listen, do I sort of feel bad for you? Yeah, but I also have no sympathy that you're suing a business. They're a business. If you want to like buy their product and eat their product like every meal, they're not going to say no. They need to like make money. So, but I do like McDonald's French fries though.
Well, there goes my McDonald's lawsuit.
Yeah.
I was going to sue them for having that, not having an A in their name.
But they're still serving billions and billions. And billions.
When I was a kid, it said 7 served.
Wow. And now they're up to 7 billion or million.
I had to buy about 6 billion to get their sign up.
So you.
But I wasn't a stockholder. It was a really bad move. I should have been a stockholder before I did that.
Well, they make the McDonald's so nice.
I don't know
now.
what we're talking about.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Back on track. Do you ever get to go see live shows?
I just
Like big guys. Big guys.
I was at Tom Paxton's. He's on his last tour. He's a very well-regarded, famous '60s folk singer, songwriter. I just saw him 2 days ago. I performed with him a couple times and hadn't seen him in about 25 years. And I went and saw him a couple nights ago and caught up with him a little bit.
Nice.
I don't get out much. my
Other than from porch to bed.
yeah, my kid dragged me out to Albany to see Rabel and Ricky Montgomery.
Okay.
They're all like, now if you're on Twitter, like
X.
if you have all these followers,
X.
like, well,
Yeah.
not Twitter. What's
Still,
the other
it's,
one?
It's X. It's called
not
X.
Twitter or X. It's
LinkedIn.
It's one of the things that all the kids are on, and I can't remember right now.
TikTok.
TikTok. So they become or not TikTok. There's a couple of them. But
Instagram,
whatever.
Threads.
So they become millions and millions of followers on
Right.
these sites, and that's how they're getting their record deals. Rabel got their record deal with Warner Brothers because of their social media hits.
It's amazing, right?
And they're great kids. And I was
It's a big thing, Scott, because
so the whole day of handing out CDs and like I made a single when I was in my early 20s, and I remember sending the single out to record companies with a letter. And
do you have hair all the way down past your shoulders?
Not until I was a guitar maker, but you'd get the letter back saying, "Well, we listened to your record, and you just really should like become a beautician or something, or but." I still have a whole bunch of those 45s.
Yeah.
45s, Sammy. That to you, that's probably just a number.
What's ancient for me was my first car, a 2001 Hyundai Elantra cassette player.
Huh.
Yeah. And so.
Yeah, I'm one of my cars had an 8-track in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's well before my time. But I remember I remember my first shows on cassette in that car. Santana 1972 and The Dead 1975. Yeah. Speaking of The Dead, that Vegas Sphere looks amazing out in Las Vegas.
Somebody just told me last night that they saw the Eagles there a few days
So
ago.
the Eagles are like the most recent group, I guess, that like played there.
I don't know. I had never heard of the Sphere until just yesterday when this guy told me about it.
Yeah.
He said it was pretty amazing.
That's awesome. You get a chance much locally to head out to open mics much anymore to support the local artists? Or
I'm a very busy husband and dad, and so I also just tend to, I did open mics. I ran open mics for 30 or 25 years maybe, and I did my radio show, and I used to, in Greenwich Village when I was in my 20s, I'd haul in from Queens and go to the Speakeasy and, all of those places and play at the open mics in the Village and stuff. So, I mean, I spent 2 or 3 decades playing and gigging, and it just wore me out.
the hours were just wearing you out. Yeah.
And so...
And this was back when gigs would typically go till 2 or 3 in the morning. This was like...
And then I'd hop on the
pre-COVID
train, and
days.
it'd be, I'd get home at 3 or 4 in the morning and have to get up and come back into the city to work. And it never fazed me because I was a stupid kid in my 20s, and I was too dumb to know that I should be dead from all that. So,
Yeah.
But, after a while, it's like you just kind of pull the plug on those things.
Did you think being a guitar luthier was kind of an easy way out of one section of the industry going into the next? Or
It's not an easy way into anything. It's an incredibly challenging, detail-oriented job.
But it's like anything else. It's passion and art, obviously, and having
It's a combination of art and science.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, doesn't matter how good you are if you don't know how to tell people that you're here.
Yeah.
So having, you have to be a business person and an artisan and a scientist. You wear a lot of hats if you're going to work alone doing what I do. It's not easy. It takes a lot of discipline, and it takes probably 15 years before you really start to get good at it, just like anything else. Like as a guitar player, it was probably around a decade before you really started having the nuances and the automatic.
Yeah, I've been telling people more and more of this lately. Like I'm 35 and I've been performing in front of people in some form of capacity, payment, or volunteer for 22 years already, which is crazy. And I'm still learning so much more, even with a music degree and lessons years ago. I'm learning more about the art of actually entertaining the masses. And it's so much more than just whether those 4 chords or the jazz chords or all the lines, the chromatic scales, this and that. One of the most inspiring shows that I went to recently in my free time was I saw Australian world-renowned guitar player Tommy Emmanuel.
Oh, yeah.
At the
He's
Lebanon
something else.
at the Lebanon Opera House. And Scott, he knows how to entertain from start to finish.
He pulls
like a
people.
show.
There's two kinds of performers, Sammy, that I've watched, especially if we're talking about soloists.
Yeah, yeah.
There's the kind that emulates this feeling of, I'm so lucky to be here and to have you as my audience. I'm so lucky to have you here and to be able to do this for you. And then there's the guy that goes like this. Let me have this back.
I enjoyed holding it for a while, by the way.
And they start pulling it, and they go like this. And then, okay, I'm going to have some fun with you.
Yeah.
And then they lean forward and they go, you're so lucky to be watching me. Those guys are assholes.
Yeah. Totally agree.
And so the ones that are really great at what they do, who make you feel like, thank you for being here for me.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that and Tommy's one of those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he definitely reeks of confidence as opposed to ego. And I think there's a big difference between the two.
Comfort.
Comfort.
He's comfortable.
Comfortable.
And he loves what he does.
Yes. And he's
And
good at
with comfort and skill comes confidence.
and confidence. Absolutely. Yeah. But he's just, he's got it all, man. From the smile, the balancing it all out. Like he plays drums on the guitar. Like it's just.
And ironically, he worked in many pancake houses as a kid.
Did he-
and
did he-
managed
did he-
to survive.
Were you
thank
his boss?
God. No. But I did mentor him in flipping for about a week. Yeah.
Olive oil or butter oil? Grade A,
You're talking
organic
to a
eggs.
former animator, so if you say olive oil, I'm going to say Popeye.
Yeah. But anyways, the point I was making on that is, I think you're always learning something new about your craft. And,
every day, yeah.
And I think the more that you learn, and I think the more, especially like when you get older, because there's a lot of people younger than me now that are artists in Vermont now, which is great to see. It's nice to see like the next wave and the next generation of people that are coming.
Yeah.
Even as I age-wise still, I'm kind of like right in the thick of.
I'm watching the next generation of guitar makers and repair people. At 33 years, it literally is a generation now for me. And for a while there, in the middle of that 15-year mark,
Yeah.
a lot of us were wondering, geez, I hope some young people step up because there's not a lot of really great people out there. All of a sudden, if you go on YouTube, you're going to see all these people who are in their 20s and 30s who have amazing chops and are doing things I never even thought of. So the next generation of guitar making and repair is totally covered.
Yeah.
They're there, and I'm so impressed with it. So it is, a generational thing. And you're just getting to, as you said, if you've been doing this for 20 years,
Yeah.
you're still about 5 or 6 years away from a full generation. But you're already seeing young people coming up who
Absolutely,
are powerful and amazing, and songwriting that's just amazing.
It is. Yeah. And the local music scene here, I believe, are so supportive of each other.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us. Like I'm sure you've done work with Nick Breedis, right? Obviously, and
don't know him.
Yeah. There's a couple of guys that have done work with you. I think that are in my neck of the woods.
We don't need to talk about names. Though.
Yeah. No, but anyways, shout
Oh,
out to
I know who Nick is.
Shout
I've
out
met
to Nick. Yeah. Because I think he did some.
Nick's a great
some
guy.
custom holographic work. Yeah,
I think I've only met him though.
he's been he's been like a mega pioneer, like up in the Killington and Bridgewater Corner area, and I don't even think he's 30 yet, but he's pushing like 300 shows a year. And besides all that, he's also very supportive of the referring me or other people that we know to do gigs that if he's not able to do. So it's just everyone's kind of.
I remember meeting
it's
him
happy competition.
At the New American Grill. He was performing there.
Yeah.
And he just had this light around him.
Yeah.
He's just such a powerful, luminant guy.
Yeah.
And I really liked him. But that was the only time I've met him in the real world.
Yeah. He's a solid player.
Yeah.
He's got great knowledge of chords and the songs. But it's that entertainment value of he's got that aura and that smile and everything about him, which will carry people like him very far.
And my whole meaning right now is guy like you or him or other people come to me, and I make their guitar play better, so that I can send you out into the world to kick butt and be yourselves and have a guitar that's going to support you. Your guitar should be like a podium that you're standing upon. And if your guitar's not doing its job, people are going to be hearing this instead of this from you. And your guitar has to be dialed in just right so that everybody will get all of Sammy B or whoever you may be. And so that's my job, is to make the guitar help you be the best you can be. That's my job.
And you do a fantastic job, and I love referring so many people to you. Do you
Well,
have
that's
like
kind of you. Thank you.
Do you have a what's the hardest project you've ever worked on?
Oh, I had to restore Mae West's harp guitar from the World's Fair in like 1930 or something. It was an old Gibson harp guitar with a harp neck, and it was missing all the tuners, and it was missing the harp neck. I had to reproduce like a 1917 harp neck or something like that. And then I found a German machinist who was able to reproduce the tuning machines perfectly.
Oh, wow.
And then I recreated this big turnbuckle, and I got it all playing again. And it took me about 3 years. It was the coolest job.
You had to charge accordingly for that, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I was also young at what I was doing at the time, and it was a long learning process. The coolest thing about it was that it was something that was rattling around inside the big part of the guitar body, and I turned it upside down, and an old piece of hashish fell out. So somebody was hanging it on the wall and using it as their stash.
A hideaway bank out in the islands, right? Yeah.
But that was the fact that it was something Mae West had played at a World's Fair. It was just like, wow. And I had to replace this neck that didn't exist and make it look like it was the original neck. It was quite a job.
Do you have a favorite set of humbuckers that you like to install in guitars?
I just ordered some yesterday. Lindy Fralin, down in Virginia.
Yep.
Lindy makes the best pickups in the world, and in fact, I
single
ordered,
coil or
he makes everything,
or double humbucker.
Yeah, he makes everything. And this new electric that you may have seen pictures of that I'm building, I had to establish the string lines from the nut to the saddles, and they start out narrow and they get wider. On any neck, it's narrow here and wider here. So if you've got a pickup here and a pickup here, the screws, the pull pieces that are under the strings, are going to be wider on this pickup than they are on this pickup. And if you look at a lot of Les Pauls and SGs and things, you'll see some of the strings aren't centered over those pull pieces. Lindy's making me a set that's 50 millimeters at the neck and 52 millimeters at the bridge with the pull pieces, so that the strings are perfectly over all of the pulls, all the way down the guitar.
Amazing.
So that's and those are humbuckers.
Have you ever designed a Stratocaster with humbuckers?
I don't make other people's styles, so I've never made a Stratocaster type.
The reason I bring that up is one of my favorite guitar players on the jam band scene right now, Jimmy Herring of Widespread Panic and the Allman Brothers Band many years ago. He plays Strats, and PRSs.
If you're asking about a single coil and a humbucker on like a Strat or a Tele kind of thing, it's a great tool to have those different sounds.
Yeah, well, I mean, like because a Strat has the 5 pickups,
right,
with the single coils,
and that's because it's three pickups and a 5-way switch.
Right.
But if you only have 2 pickups, it's a 3-way switch.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's cool hearing, and I've played a Strat before with humbucker pickups, and it's such a fatter sound that you get out of it. And just volume wise and the bass. Single coils are great, and there's definitely like a unique sound to it.
Well, it's not going to be a Strat classically if it has nothing but humbuckers. It's not going to sound.
But they
like
just like the
Strat.
feel of the neck, probably. I think more than anything.
And that's why custom guitars exist.
Yeah.
Did
you ever play bass guitar back in your performing days?
I tried. I could pull off 4/4.
Not a 6/8 or YYZ from Rush.
Mostly my real licks are on dobro and banjo and ukulele, and in my guitars I tune them to banjo and dobro tunings. I only know about 3 or 4 chords in a standard tuning.
Do you listen to music when you work in your studio?
Yeah, I do actually.
Do you have a favorite genre go to?
Nope. Listen to whatever. Listen to all kinds of things, from classical to jazz to, pop stuff and classic stuff.
Has your palate for...
I just recently got into Wilco. I don't know how I never
Oh,
listened
my
to
God.
Wilco.
They've been around forever.
I never
Yeah.
listened to Wilco until last year.
yeah,
And it's like some of the most amazing stuff.
It is incredible. Yeah, I'm not as...
Flaming Lips, I got into them.
Yeah.
They're all old now, too.
Yeah.
You know, but for me, it was a breakthrough.
Hey, I mean, if the Rolling Stones can still put out an album, you know?
Well, yeah.
It's amazing Keith is still alive, huh? Mick and... Yeah.
Keith is amazing. I've always respected him a great deal.
Yeah, and McCartney for that matter also too. I saw a meme recently online that showed a picture of what Paul McCartney looked like in '62 and a picture of what he looks like now. And it was a reaction of a 10-year-old now in 2024 looking at, who's Paul McCartney? It's like, oh wow, that guy looks amazing right there, blah, blah, blah. And then the person who's in their 60s already goes, yeah, but that's what he looked like in 1962. And then the kid's reaction's like, what? So kudos to modern medicine, or just... last story I was going to mention, we were talking about meeting people. You mentioned Joe DiMaggio. So my ultimate hero I've met in my life, Derek Trucks.
Oh, yeah?
Twice.
Cool.
When I was 15, he signed my red Mexican Stratocaster, and I had a white pickup guard, and he signed it. Mm-hmm. And my dad removed it and framed it, and it's still in their basement in Shelton,
Did that make
Connecticut.
you want to be a better guitar player?
Well, I knew that I didn't stand a chance playing slide guitar, but I just...
But those kinds of things can inspire you.
Yes. Well,
that
so
age.
the thing was, and I'd love to meet Derek again one of these days, and I'd love to meet like Warren Haynes someday, just because having all the access to with the internet and seeing all the interviews and the platforms that all these guys are on now doing podcasts and stuff, and hearing genuine nice people that are your heroes. And I know it's like, well, never fully trust your heroes and never fully trust your rock stars. I don't fully buy that saying sometimes because I've met him in person, and I know I was a kid when I met him twice.
A lot of those people are really cool.
And
very chill.
And I was going to bring this up also as well. I feel like sometimes some of the big people that I've met, like Derek Trucks, and I've even met Victor Wooten.
You know, Derek Trucks could use a Sammy B. Frisbee, by the way.
Yeah, because I'm sure him and Susan have dogs down in Florida
he
where
was
they
talking
live.
about that on TikTok.
He can use that as a slide, right? Yeah, that could be his new slide. But I have found so far that if you change the topic of conversation with some of your heroes, that they end up like they're happier because they want to talk about something different other than their lifestyle. Yeah. And I found that to like work sometimes with some of the people that I've met.
Yeah. No, I had an amazing practical joke played on me by Isaac Asimov, the great science fiction writer, that took 2 or 3 years to come to fruition. All because I said something different to him. And I'm not going to go into the story.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about a brilliant hero. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Also another one before my time. That'd be like you mentioned.
The greatest science fiction writer of all time.
Yeah.
Only, you know.
You had me at like Desi Arnaz, and I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, I love Lucy. I'm like, Ricky Ricardo. There we go. Yeah. Well,
we were talking about how the multi-camera
we are.
setup was invented by Desi Arnaz. I brought that up
Ricky,
to Sammy.
can I be in the show? Yeah, and then she cries and cries and cries some more.
Yeah, she must have been sitting here.
Yeah, we kept the seat warm for her. Well, I want to have you back for another episode because we have so much more that we can uncover another time.
Well, thanks for having me come.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, how can people find you? How can people find you?
Customguitars.com.
And you have Facebook and Instagram as well, too?
My shop has a Facebook page. It's under my company name, which is SB MacDonald. SB MacDonald Custom
And it's
Instruments.
M-A-C.
M-A-C Donald.
M-A-C. I originally had that spelt wrong.
And the only reason I go by SB MacDonald instead of my name is because I was originally writing for some guitar magazines and a magazine in New York in the TV business as Scott MacDonald or SB MacDonald. Was my writing name because there was another writer by the name of Scott MacDonald in the same business in TV. So I went with my initials so I could differentiate myself from the other writer. And then when I started writing for guitar magazines, people knew me because of SB MacDonald. And it sounds pretentious. I hate it. But I couldn't, I just kept it as my company name. So now I'm thinking, you're 65, you've been doing this for 33 years. Why don't you just start calling it Old MacDonald's Guitar Farm?
E-I-E-I-O.
So,
And on that farm, he had a bear.
E-I-E-I-O happens to be a new tuning.
With a woof woof here and a meow meow there.
Or a cluck cluck in my case. But, yeah, I never was.
That's more my time, Scott.
Yeah.
Those
People say,
childhood...
why do you go by your initials? Well, that's why. It was my writing name because there was another guy who was very well known with my same name.
Yeah. And like McDonald's, you're serving 7 million and more.
I've served about 7,000 probably.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Have you ever gotten burnt out from what you do?
Sure. Everybody does.
Yeah. I'm more talking like the luthier side of things. Not
there are times when I go, oh my God, I don't want to ever make another guitar because something happens or you make a mistake and you just being too hard on yourself,
and it eats at you,
or you pour your heart into something to really make somebody's guitar great during a big repair, because you know that they write great songs, you really care about them, and then they don't notice all the extra stuff you did and all the stuff you put into it, and so there were times where I was like, oh man, this is wearing me out. Yeah. And then I stopped having expectations of others.
I was about to say, because I talked about this, Jim Yeager, right? Jim Yeager up in the
He's
Upper
another
Valley.
great guy.
Yeah. I was chatting with this in the episode with him one time about how we take our craft very seriously. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we want to let people that don't know truly what we do, we want to sometimes tell them everything so that way they sort of have a better understanding of how much work is actually involved. And Jim actually countered with that. He said, not everybody does need to know. Not everybody does really
What you
need
do
to know.
is, I've been around a while and I'm learning.
Yeah.
What I was saying before is don't have expectations from other people, because then you won't get let down. So you choose to walk the walk you're walking. That's a choice you made for you. What other people think, how other people respond, doesn't matter. You're doing it for yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's how you become genuine. Mm-hmm. I'm not expecting to have people go, oh, you're great, or oh, you're whatever. I'm not going to get let down because I'm not expecting anything. All I'm doing is walking my walk. Mm-hmm. And that's my choice. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with friendships. If you could be a friend who's constantly checking in and giving and giving and giving, and this other friend that you do that to never does that back, and you go, man, that guy never calls me back or never cares about me, and all I do is care about them. Yeah. Well, don't have any expectations. If you're doing that, it's because that's who you are. Right. It's your choice to be that caring or that loving. Maybe they don't have those tools. Right. So you learn to not have expectations, and then you don't get burned out and you don't get let down. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, if I can pull that off 80% of the time, I'm doing good. So, but really think about that, folks. Expectations are, every time you've ever been hurt or let down by somebody, there was an expectation there. So
I was going to ask as a follow-up, was there any inspirational advice that you wanted to give to the audience? But I think you just nailed it. In every
just follow your heart,
right there.
and nobody will do it for you.
Absolutely. Well,
you have to be brave. Real bravery is just inner heroism. Mm-hmm. That's all. Yeah. Honor yourself.
And with that comes with what Steve Harvey, the TV host and comedian, has said. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable to grow in certain areas of your life.
That's why they call it growing pains. Sam.
Yeah. We're getting it. Yeah. That I remembered in my time. So, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a great episode. Yeah. Episode number 30. Scott, do you want to give a shout out to anybody in your family or anybody in particular? Everybody. Shout out to everybody.
I hope everybody stays happy and healthy and forgiving and
kind.
Fill yourself with hope and be a light, because we need it. There's going to be some interesting times coming up very soon. So
keep up the good work, my friend. And check them out and support local luthiers. Everybody support local in general. Once again, my name is Sammy Blanchette, here for episode number 30 of the Tasty Twist. Thank you, Okemo Valley TV. Check them out on YouTube, their website, their app. Check out all the episodes. It's been fun. Episode number 30. Have a great day.
Don't you worry now, my darling. Woo!
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of the Tasty Twist with Sammy B. You can watch all the episodes of this podcast on Okemo Valley TV's YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe. You can visit their website, okemovalley.tv, consider downloading their mobile app, or watch them on live television via VTEL, channel 166 and 167, Comcast 1076 and 1086. Are you interested in supporting a local media station? Please consider becoming a member today. Visit okemovalley.tv for more information.